For decades, politicians, economists and reformers have debated Australia's broken tax system. Everyone agrees that it's inefficient. Everyone knows that stamp duty chokes the housing market. Capital gains tax fuels speculation, income tax discourages work, and GST disproportionately hurts the poor. And yet every time real reform is proposed, it fails before it even gets started. Why? Because the people who own the most land and wealth in Australia also hold the most political power. Banks, developers, wealthy landowners, and property investors all have a vested interest in keeping things exactly as they are. Our tax system has allowed them to accumulate extraordinary wealth, tax-free simply by owning property. Meanwhile, everyday Australians are forced to work harder, pay higher taxes, and accept that they may never own a home. In this video, I'll explore the real reasons why tax reform has stalled, the interests working against it, and how Australia could successfully transition to a land value tax, or LVT, without economic shock. Because while change might seem impossible now, history tells us that impossible only stays that way until enough people demand otherwise. Who really benefits from the current system? The banking industry, the ultimate winner. If you ask the average Australian who benefits from rising house prices, they might say investors or developers, but the real winners are the banks. Australia has one of the highest rates of household debt in the world. Why? Because our tax system encourages people to take out enormous mortgages to chase property gains. Banks profit from massive loans. The bigger the house price, the bigger the mortgage, the bigger the profits for banks. Negative gearing encourages debt. Investors are rewarded for borrowing money to buy property, creating artificial demand and pushing prices higher. Land is used as collateral. As land values increase, banks can lend more against existing properties, further inflating the market. The banks have no incentive to support reform. A switch to land value taxation would reduce land speculation, lower house prices, and shrink mortgage sizes, cutting into their profits. Developers and land hoarders. Large developers don't actually want land prices to fall. They buy huge tracts of land and leave them undeveloped while they wait for prices to rise. Stamp duty rewards hoarding. It's easier for developers to sit on land than to constantly buy and sell. Lack of a proper land tax means no penalty for inactivity. If an LVT existed, landowners would need to develop their land or sell it to someone who will. Wealthy landowners and investors. The people who own the most land benefit the most from the current system. Wealthy families have passed down land holdings for generations, watching values rise while paying little in tax. Capital gains tax discounts reward long-term holding, encouraging people to keep property off the market. Negative gearing disproportionately helps the wealthy, allowing high-income earners to minimize their taxable income through property investment losses. This small but powerful group has deep political influence, ensuring that reform efforts never gain traction. The political roadblocks to reform. Every politician knows that Australia's tax system is a disaster. Even the Henry Tax Review in 2010, commissioned by the government itself, recommended replacing inefficient taxes with a land value tax. But time and time again, reform has failed. Why? Number one, political fear and the power of property owners. In Australia, property is not just an investment, it's a religion. Politicians who suggest any tax on land are accused of attacking homeowners, despite the fact that an LVT will reduce overall tax burdens for the majority of Australians. Elections are won and lost on property policies. Any policy that threatens landowners is seen as political suicide. The real estate industry funds political parties. Political donations from property developers and lobby groups ensure that tax reform never happens. Number two, the myth that house prices can only go up. For decades, Australians have been told that house prices will always rise. Many treat property as their retirement plan, relying on future price increases to fund their later years. This means that any policy perceived to lower house prices, like an LVT, faces immediate backlash, even though it would make housing more affordable for future generations. Number three, state governments rely on stamp duty revenue. One of the biggest obstacles to reform is state governments, which rely on billions of dollars in stamp duty each year. Stamp duty is an easy tax to collect. Governments take a cut every time a house is sold. Switching to an LVT would require a transition period, but in the long run, it would provide a more stable revenue source, avoiding boom and bust cycles. How Australia could transition to a land value tax. Despite the obstacles, transitioning to an LVT-based system is possible. Here's how we could do it. Number one, gradual phasing. Instead of abolishing existing taxes overnight, an LVT could be introduced gradually, replacing stamp duty and CGT step by step. Start by phasing out stamp duty. States could replace it with a modest annual land tax, lowering upfront costs for buyers, reduce CGT discounts over time, removing incentives for land hoarding and speculation. Number two, offsetting income and payroll taxes. To ensure that transition benefits working Australians, the revenue from an LVT could be used to reduce income tax and payroll tax. Lower income tax means more disposable income, encouraging work, investment and spending. Lower payroll tax means more jobs, making it easier for businesses to hire employees. Number three, ensuring fairness for existing homeowners. One of the biggest fears about LVT is that it would unfairly impact retirees or homeowners who have already paid stamp duty. This can be addressed by grandfathering existing home purchases. Homeowners who recently paid stamp duty could receive LVT exemptions or credits. Deferral options for retirees, allowing elderly homeowners to defer LVT payments until the property is sold or transferred. Number four, public awareness and political pressure. No reform happens without public demand. To break through political resistance, Australians must be made aware of how the current system harms productivity, inflates house prices, and rewards speculation. Educational campaigns explaining how an LVT would make home ownership easier and wages go further. Grassroots political movements supporting candidates who advocate for tax reform, a once-in-a-generation opportunity. For too long, Australia's tax system has been designed to protect wealth, not create it. The wealthy hoard land, investors speculate on housing, and banks profit while the average Australian works harder, pays more taxes, and struggles to afford a home. But it doesn't have to be this way. By replacing stamp duty, CGT, and income tax with a land value tax, we could reduce inequality, increase productivity, and end housing speculation once and for all. The only thing standing in the way is political will. The real question isn't whether we can fix the problem, it's how long we're willing to let it stay broken.